Hey folks, it's your friend Ashton, and welcome to the Rooted Rebellion podcast, the show that's reshaping the food system from the ground up. Hey friends, this is your host Ashton, and I want to thank you for joining me on another episode of the Rooted Rebellion podcast. It is a pleasure, as always, to join you here and to share the stories of folks who are reshaping the way that we relate to food in this nation. On today's episode, we are joined by a lady that represents a place that is near and dear to my heart. The Good Foods Co-op of Lexington, Kentucky. The Good Foods Co-op is no ordinary grocery store. As the name suggests, it operates on a co-op model. Unlike your typical grocery store, Good Foods puts power in the hands of its shoppers. Customers are able to make a small one-time purchase of a share in the company. Once they have that share, shoppers become actual owners in the co-op, meaning they get access to exclusive deals and voting rights in the operation of the company, in addition to providing a retail outlet for hundreds of Kentucky businesses. The co-op also regularly donates money to organizations that help support a resilient food system in the Bluegrass. Here to share in the mission of Good Foods Co-op and how it betters the community of Lexington, Kentucky is Kara Shepard, the marketing manager of Good Foods Co-op. Kara, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I cannot wait to get into the history and the mission of what is one of my favorite local businesses.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a real pleasure. Well, to kick us off, would you care to tell folks a little bit about your role with Good Foods Co-op and maybe tell us a little bit about the history?
Sure. So I am the marketing manager at Good Foods Co-op. It started in 1972, just with some local people who felt like there was a need for, a place where everyone could buy local produce, local goods. And it has just flourished from there to what you see and shop now.
So, how does the co op model operate? Can you explain for folks who maybe have never shopped at a co op? How does that differ from, say, a conventional grocery store?
So, with a co op model, we have owners, or some people call them members. And that really is who owns the store. So, once you buy a share of ownership, it is similar to like buying a share of a stock. And so, you do have that piece of ownership of the co op. So, we couldn't exist without our owners or members. And it's really cool because, where else can you shop that you really do have a say in the people that are on the board of directors for that place, or the charitable partners that the organization gives back to. Those are some of the things that our owners, are able to vote on yearly and help select. Um, and so it's really cool. And, in a profitable year, like with stocks, you would get like a dividend or, patronage back based on how often you shop. So it really is such a cool concept and an idea for supporting, supporting different people in your community and, really kind of having a say in where you shop.
This concept of owning the store where you shop is something that gets me really jazzed up. And it's part of the appeal for why I became a member initially. I think you said it really well. Like, where else are you going to have such a say in really how the store is operated? And I use the term store, but I think that you can speak to this. The co op is really a community,
Hmm.
and it is a model that I would love personally to see in every community in this nation. As a patron of the co-op, as a owner, as the term suggests, shopping there for me is akin to sitting on the porch with your neighbors. And I know that sounds maybe a little silly, but what I mean is you walk into the store and there's just this air of familiarity. So, one of the things that I really appreciate about the co op is that, particularly with the produce, so much of it is labeled with the farm and the farmers. And we live in a day and age when we are already so isolated that people don't often consider or even have the luxury to consider where their food is produced. So, when you go to pick up this produce, which is fabulous, by the way, it's tremendous quality, better than you're going to get in any other large chain store, you are getting to put a name to the person that tended your food. And for me, that is just so rewarding and it's comforting. Um, it's exciting too to see, as someone who was not originally from Lexington, just the broad area of Kentucky that, you know, supports and is supported by the co op. So, how many farms and local businesses would you say are featured at the co op?
We have over 250 local businesses slash farmers that we carry at the co-op. And that I love how you put your experience of shopping at the co-op because that means like what we're doing really is translating in the way we want it to. It's so cool for me to walk around the store and see that community. Whether it's people gathering at the cafe, I'll see groups of people, frequently there, grabbing coffee or eating lunch, and it's just such an awesome thing to see. Um, and to your point of being able to, carry so many different local makers and shakers, it's really rewarding. Especially because, as people are deciding to create an item and get it to retail, we are a really great place for those kind of people, especially locally, to start. Um, you know, just connecting with the right buyer based on, what category their product fits. And it's so cool to see that happen, because it's at bigger chain stores, you can't just walk in and get a place on the shelf. And not that it's that easy at the co-op, there are still a, chain of command, if you will, for getting your product in our store. But there's a name and a face and, someone to connect with easily. And I just love watching that happen and seeing, local businesses, small businesses get their chance to grow and start with us. I think that's something really cool that we get to do. Something else I really love with my job specifically is getting to highlight some of those farmers and the journey that the product takes, to get to good foods. And it also just, a lot of these people are kind of doing everything on their own. And so even just to give them a piece of content to use for their social media, additionally to promote their brand in our store is really rewarding. And I kind of look at those content filming days as field trips for me. Selfishly, it's one of my favorite parts of the job, getting to try, for example, blueberries fresh right off the bush, and then take them to the store or see them in the store and know where they were grown, where they came from. It's just really cool. And truly, once you eat local, especially the fresh produce, it's hard to ever go back because it is just so much better. Just so fresh and so flavorful. And again, just knowing where it comes from, it's really eye opening. I think, gosh, before I started working at Good Foods, I didn't think about these things as much as I do now. And it's just, you can't top it. Eating
You
local, you can't top it.
can't. And so much when we talk about starting to source locally, I think people have kind of a narrow lens of what that means. And that's
Hmm.
part of why I'm such a supporter of the co op. Now, not every product is local, but
Right.
the co op does have everything you need. Now, it's not just produce, it's hygiene, it's a hot bar, a
Mm.
deli. And I think that invites people to join the conversation of just asking the question, well, what can we source locally? And I think it takes businesses like the co op to kind of push the boundaries. A lot of us, when we think shopping locally, it's, as you put in, a field trip to a farm or a farmer's market, which to me, there's nothing better. Like, that is top of the line. But I think what the co op does so beautifully is showcases just what a broad range of products we can be sourcing from the community, or at the very least, shortening the distribution chain.
Hmm.
Historically, we have lived in communities with folks who were highly specialized, but also highly dependent on one another to create a livelihood as well as products for survival and comfort. And I think part of what I am so drawn to about the co op is it harkens for me back to stories of what my parents have talked about as the stores in the rural communities. So, the Good Foods Co op is not in a rural community. It is in the heart of Lexington, Kentucky, which we could argue is not the most urbane area. It is not a metropolis. However, as we have advanced as a capitalist society, we have moved farther and farther away from these small mom and pop shops where you don't just go because it's a boutique or for some specialty item. You shop for all of your groceries and your hygiene products. And I think that the co op is such a grounding step towards that. Something that I didn't know until preparing for this interview is that it was actually founded by basically a group of friends and community that wanted to see this model. And I think that is so encouraging for people in every corner of the nation or even the globe to show that, there really is action in numbers. And we have seen the co op continue to thrive. Um, I will say that, you know, there is a bit of a barrier to entry for some folks. There is a cost associated with being a member, as well as a little bit of a cost increase to shopping at the co op. I think we can be very transparent about that. Um, for all of its virtues, you know, it does have its drawbacks like anywhere else. So I was just wondering how much conversation takes place at the co op about how to make models like this or memberships more accessible to a larger population.
That's a great question. I think we have some different options for membership that help make that more available for others. So you can pay, it's a $200 fee. You can pay that one time. That's the only time you'll ever pay it. And we have the option to split that up in monthly payments as little as $5 a month. Um, until that fee, has been paid. And so I think that does help make it much more accessible for anyone to do. And you can use your benefits the day you sign up. It's not, anything that you have to wait until that full amount is paid. Like as soon as you make the commitment, you can, dive right in. So I think that's really helpful. I think something else to note too is if you ever feel like it's no longer worth it for you, if you decide to move, you can get that membership payment back if you resign your membership. So, in my opinion, why not? There's no, reason if it's something you feel passionate about and if it's a place you're going to shop often, um, there's no reason not to become a member. And something I think that is also important to note is that you don't have to be an owner to shop at Good Foods. Everyone is welcome to shop. There are some perks, obviously, if you are an owner. We have monthly deals for our owners. You're able to special order and receive some discounts on like volume orders. So I tell people, if you are drinking a Celsius or an Alani New every day and you decide, okay, I should order these in bulk. If you're an owner, we can make that happen for you on those, larger volume options. Um, there's a special price for owners at our hot bar, which you mentioned, which is a daily delicious buffet. And, the most important part too is that you're helping Good Foods live on and flourish and supporting, local by becoming a member.
And you do bring up a really good point that I should have mentioned is the payment plan option. And that is something that I myself have taken advantage of. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I've been paying on it. I'm probably still paying on it if I if I could check, and I've had the membership for years now. Uh, Not that it's expensive, but because it is so reasonable to stretch out over time. Uh,
Right.
yeah, it's akin to, I feel like, paying collections on medical bills, except you're actually reaping the rewards of that payment. So,
Right. Even in
absolutely.
even in this day and age, I know $5 is important, but it is one of those things that, $5 in a month, you're not going to feel that. And, $200 is a bigger chunk of change for a lot of people at one time. So definitely having that option, I think, makes it more accessible to anyone who wants to become an owner.
Absolutely. And a conversation that we've had a lot here is that of privilege. There is a privilege that comes with shopping at the co op,
Hmm.
but in exercising that privilege, if you have that ability, like you said, you are furthering the mission and helping your community if you are able. So maybe this isn't the way that you support your local food system. But if it is, the rewards really are countless. I know so many people that have benefited from the co op. And I'm also really interested in the Good Foods Charitable Foundation grants. This is something that I have heard a little bit about. Would you care to share how this program helps to develop Kentucky's local food system?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Every month we have a different charitable partner. 10 of those are voted upon by our owners each year, but two remain the same every year, no matter what. And that's the Kentucky Double Dollars program. Any of our shoppers that are using SNAP benefits can use the Kentucky Double Dollars program. So that is something that is on our charitable partner every year. And then our own Good Foods Charitable Foundation is on our every December. That's our charitable partner. So when you choose to round up at the register, that's where that money goes. And then we ask people to apply. And then every year we look at the applicants and kind of divvy out how much we're able to donate. And it's based on, certain qualifications, requirements. Often we try to give back to organizations that are, helping food accessibility. One of which I believe we just approved this year is Glean Kentucky. And so we donate not just money to them, but product as well. And they are able to distribute that to people in need. And then another organization, which doesn't necessarily help with food, but are a great charitable partner, is the Bluegrass Council for the Blind. They applied, and we were able to donate one of our grants to them. And so it's just another way to give back to our community. And again, it's just something that's really cool and special. And, I feel like helps us, put our money where our mouth is.
There is such a holistic nature to Good Foods as a storefront, but also in its mission. And Kara, just in talking to you briefly before this interview, you have also brought up something that is so compelling to me. And it's this junction that you are working in between content creation and the local food system. I think we have some pretty concrete ideas of what content creation looks like, particularly when media seems to be flooded with influencer culture. But then we have someone in a position such as you that is educating the community and connecting folks to their food source in a way that they're probably not even aware of. The work that you're doing behind the scenes is reaching people in such a quantity and to a depth that you may not in any other way. I know that you are passionate about your work in Good Foods, in part for how it is helping to support similar minded local creators. Can you tell me a little bit more about the work that you're doing with similar creators in the Lexington and broader Kentucky area?
Absolutely. So, partly I'm chronically online. And in that, I'm always finding new people that are wanting to share about the places they're visiting locally. And that has been really beneficial to us, specifically with TikTok. And I finally created our account this year. And I feel like we're growing pretty quickly and steadily. But on that platform specifically, there's just so many people willing to share and wanting to share, just about their kind of daily lives and, things that we all do and maybe take for granted, but they're sharing and helping to get the word out. So I'm constantly just looking at, different creators that are posting things about maybe coffee shops they're visiting. And so I reach out to them and invite them to try our cafe, which not only has coffee, but has really great sandwiches, some different bakery options. And oftentimes it's people that didn't know about Good Foods or hadn't been, or maybe hadn't been in a while. So I often feel like we're this best kept secret, and utilizing these kind of micro influencers or local creators is really helping to get the word out, specifically to a younger generation, which I think is really important because, we have some great history and some really awesome, loyal shoppers who have shopped with us for years. But, we have to continue that pattern and continue bringing in new life, fresh life. And so I think helping kind of reach that younger generation, I think will help sustain us for years to come. Specifically, with UK here and so many college kids that I think are more health conscious than maybe in years before, certainly more than I was when I was in school. And definitely, kind of targeting those people too who maybe shop at Whole Foods, but we're so much closer to campus, easier to shop, in my humble opinion. And again, offering so many local options, and just letting those people know that we're there. I've had a couple athletes reach out, which has been really exciting. Some women's volleyball players from UK. Getting to work with them is awesome. I know that they really do take their health and what they're eating, working out and being active, that's important to them because of their job at school, which is to play volleyball. So even just working with them, such a natural fit, right? Like, and reaching just that demographic that I think we've maybe missed out on in years prior. But it's been really fulfilling and really exciting, especially to see like comments on these different videos of people excited to try it, people who hadn't heard of it but now want to come. And it's been exciting for me to hear, our staff say, yes, there are people that are coming in and shopping and telling us that they found us on TikTok. So then I know, these efforts are working. It's bringing people in. And honestly, it is often in trade. I'm offering in exchange for a piece of content, a gift card to shop, which is valuable to people because we all need food. We may not all need a new top, but we all need food. So thankfully, most everyone has been willing to, use that trade and have been really happy with it. And yeah, it's really exciting for me to see. And also fun because sometimes they find new things that I haven't even noticed on the shelves. And so they're even influencing me to try something new. But yeah, it definitely, whatever industry you're in, it works. Using these local people who are really able to highlight and help tell our story. And it almost feels organic and definitely has a better return than, some traditional media outlets that I've used before. I think a lot of people, are cord cutters or don't watch TV in the way they used to. And so, spending money on ads there or ads on the radio, it's hard to track, you know, that return. But with the work I'm doing with, our local creators, I can see it in real time that it's working. So that makes me excited.
That is exciting. And it is incredibly niche to think about our local content creators, particularly in the food sector. And I think social media, it gets a deservedly bad rap for all of the negatives that it does have. But the way I consider it, it is a tool like anything else. You wouldn't use a hammer to turn a screw, but you would use it to drive a nail. And that's exactly how I feel about some of our media platforms. I think it would be incredibly hypocritical of me to disparage all forms of media when it is these same platforms that allow me to connect with my audience and so much of our education to come through today. I think there is an incredibly valuable future for it, particularly, like you said, with a younger generation. With this podcast, we are so passionate about meeting people where they are. And I
Hmm.
think you and your work are a great example of meeting people where they are and helping educate them with the local food system when they might be overlooked by more conventional methods. You
Hmm.
know, some of these shoppers aren't going to just be at the farmer's market, or they're not going to be visiting small farms in more rural areas, but they are going to see people that they look up to in their community shopping somewhere new, and they are going to trust that authority. And so I think that ties the holistic nature of the store really well with this future that is available when we accept media for the positives that it does hold. So I really appreciate that insight. And I think it's healthy for us all to remember.
Absolutely. And it's also nice to, work for a place where everything is really positive. Like the style of content that we're asking to be made, it's not controversial. It's like people sharing what they bought, people showing a recipe, people trying the hot bar. So I think that helps. That you know it's all just inherently really positive, and so it's a good reminder, like you said, that social media can be positive and can be a good thing. Um, so it's a nice refresh to be able to use it in that way. Um, because, there's pros and cons to everything, but it certainly is nice to be able to use it and feel much more on the pro side for work.
Well, for people who are looking for more positive exposure to their food system or that they want to learn more about the work being done at Good Foods Co op, how can they connect and follow along with its mission?
I would certainly ask that they follow us on our social platforms. We use most frequently Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok. And so, that is where we're connecting with a lot of people. That's where we're sharing a lot of updates or information, any sales. I would also invite you to subscribe to our email list. Anything that we need our customers to know, anything exciting, events upcoming, or will be shared through our emails as well. And so, yeah, I also like to think that we're sharing some really fun things and that it will be entertaining. Of course, I'm biased because I'm the one putting it all together. But yeah, I really hope that you would follow along and meet us there. And, you know, you might learn something new or find a new product that you wouldn't have otherwise.
What is it about your work that makes you feel most rooted? What about putting together content for Good Foods Co-op makes you feel most connected to these values?
Truly getting to connect and share the stories of our local vendors and farmers specifically, just because I get to see, some of the very hard labor that they're putting into. And to think that they chose that is awesome because, it's often very unforgiving. But to be able to share their stories and promote their products and know that I'm not just helping some big brand, I'm helping John, I'm helping Scott, and really putting a name and a face to the products that we're carrying. It just, for me, it feels really special to get to do that because it's like, yes, it's helping our store, but it's helping those people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into giving us the most awesome food. Or, if not food, some of our wellness items. It's really special. And, not everyone gets that opportunity. So it just really does feel like what I'm doing matters. And I can feel proud of what I'm working to promote and to share. And I've worked a lot of different places and it has never felt special like it does at Good Foods. And it really is because of the people in our communities that we're helping to flourish.
And let's admit, some of these positions, like with the farmers, it's not the most glamorous work. But I think we can agree that these are some folks that really deserve to be in the spotlight for a little while. So,
Oh, absolutely.
so thank you for your work in bringing the local food system to a larger public. And thank you for your time tonight.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'll be sure to link all of the social platforms for Good Food as well as the newsletter in the show notes. Until next time, everyone, stay rooted.